Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast, the ultimate blueprint to self-love and inner peace. I'm your host, Danielle Van. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, a life coach, meditation teacher, and author, I've spent my life studying and learning from the stories that make us human. It's my passion and goal to help you shift your mindset and create a lifelong revolution to live as your highest and truest self. We live in a constant hamster wheel of rushing from one thing to the next, never having enough time to slow down and truly enjoy life. What happens when we speed up, we lose our healthier mindset and we begin to fall into perspectives that do not serve us. So today, you and I are taking a one-on-one deep dive into the power of slowing down and why it's all about your mindset. I'm going to give you tools to slow down and do less and get out of the need to constantly rush. This is something I personally have been doing over the last couple of months, and I will tell you it is revolutionary on your mental and physical health. So let's get right to it. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now. Wow. So a few weeks ago, I got a couple emails, and that was followed up with some DMs where people began to notice that I haven't quite been on Instagram or answering DMs to the level that I normally have. And even some of my clients have noticed that I had taken a giant step back. Was there something wrong? Was there some reason why I needed to slow down? And the answer was yes, but there was nothing wrong. It was just that I found myself rushing from one thing to the next, never having time to slow down. And I found myself frequently dreading going to the next thing. I love working with people. I love teaching. I love being with my children. I love being with my husband. I love downtime. I love exercising. And I found myself resistant to many things, even the podcast, where I was so exhausted that slowing down felt like a death. To be really honest. And I know I'm not the only one who experiences that. I know so many of you have a hard time realizing that slowing down is not always doing less. It's about changing your mindset. And yet those are two words that I want you to hold on to and make your mantra right now. Do less. However that looks. I remember I found myself double booking an appointment, forgetting an appointment, leaving with very little time to get to the next place. I hadn't eaten. I was burning the candle at both ends, and I was trying to get my steps in and exercise, make sure that I was making homemade dinners and doing all the things. And I found myself sitting in the bathroom in tears. How could I manage it all? How was I going to serve all of you and myself? I am someone who doesn't place my worth in my productivity, but I do have value in my productivity. So when I slowed down, I realized that my productivity actually was very, very little. Because I wasn't engaging in the way that I really wanted to, my quality wasn't there. And I began to slow down, pretty resistant, pretty filled with guilt, pretty overwhelmed, and I began to prioritize myself. And I want to talk about what we can learn when we slow down, because again, slowing down is a mindset. It's not so much taking stuff off of your plate. It is about making sure that you can validate and recognize that busy doesn't always mean truly excellent. I had to be kinder to myself, kinder to the people that I love, kinder to the efforts that I was putting out there. And I know you must feel this way too, because so many of you have said, your step back made me realize I needed one too. When I answered and said, "Hey, I'm just fine," I just realized that I was overwhelmed and underperforming. So I've taken a few moments to step back. I will be back soon. People began to give themselves permission to. So here's what I want to go through is that slowing down is a mindset and that it doesn't have to be filled with effort. Let's go through these pieces. What can you learn? Presence over productivity. That's the first thing. When you slow down, you prioritize your presence over what you're doing. Let me tell you a quick story. So my son is a baseball player. You've heard me say that so many times. We went to Branson for a World Series, and as somebody who was leading the team, doing all of the kind of minuscule work of getting all of the players in the right place and doing all things, like it's called a team GM, I found myself not able to relax, not able to take a step back, not even able to enjoy what should have been a vacation. I was so overwhelmed with all of the things and managing all the things that I never found myself downshifting. My presence wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be because I was so focused. And so I had to shift my mindset into realizing that there was quality of my experience that was happening, and I needed to focus on that and watch my son play, engage with my family, enjoy the little moments, regardless of how much effort I needed to put forth. Of course, then I had to be mindful. It's what I teach. Slowing down encourages mindfulness. It's about paying attention to all the things we talk about, the thoughts, the emotions, the sensations, and it is done without judgment. I have a hard time, admittedly, and I know so many of you do too because you've written in and told me of sitting. I have a hard time with it. I have a hard time because I don't feel like I'm giving the best of myself if I am slow. And so I took longer walks, something that I love to do. And I ask you, what do you do when you need to be mindful in your living? The sensations without judgment, instead of judging the slowdown, the need to put yourself first, you just go with it. And that's what I've been doing over the last few months. And I know so many of you have been too. We learned that in the slow down, we can practice gratitude and contentment. A slow mindset cultivates gratitude. Contentment comes by experiencing the moments where you're more aware of life's simple pleasures, and therefore you increase your happiness and you reduce your stress. You create a neural pathway that says calm is the new effort. Do less. It's funny, a lot of people that wrote me, whether an email or DM, began to point out the fact that I teach this stuff. And how did my life become so chaotic and so overwhelming that I let go of some of my own mindset tools? And the answer is I'm human, right? I'm human. The demands on me are the demands on you. We experience the same things in our day-to-day lives. And so we have to remember that contentment is always ours. We have to be mindful about getting there. The next thing that you learn in the slowdown is to make effective decisions. Slowing down allows you to be more clear and make better decisions. If I'm not rushed, I can connect to that inner voice, my inner wisdom, consider those pros and cons, ask my discovery questions, evaluate my priorities, and make my choices align with my needs. That's a big one, right? My choices need to align with my needs. When we do that, when we slow down in this way, then we improve the relationship with our lives. It fosters a deeper connection with ourselves. We pay attention to ourselves. We care and put our full attention on the people we care about. And we also begin to recognize that we do a lot of work for people who don't do it back. And then we begin to realize that we have to shift and figure out what works best for us. Why do we need to slow down? Why is it so important? It's because if we're always constantly moving at the speed of light, we have a huge toll on our mental, physical, emotional, financial, even spiritual health, our relationships, and that productivity we've been talking about. And in the slowdown, besides all of the things that I just mentioned, we can truly begin to focus on what's most important. We stop losing sight. It allows us to put our priorities back into alignment and then stick to them. There's a plan to get there. We're going to talk about it in just a second. We physically recharge. We mentally recharge. We let go of that chronic stress. We let go of all that cortisol filling our bodies and dumping extra sugar from our liver into our bloodstream. We let go of the hurry sickness. This is a form of anxiety that's fueled by constantly trying to squeeze one more thing into an already packed schedule. I have multiple people that I work with right now that constantly are like, I'm so sick, Danielle. And I'm like, it's because you are in hurry. Do less. And of course, we become more productive. It sounds backwards, but rest is critical to productivity. You rush, you're going to make mistakes. Rush, you're going to have to redo. Rush. Your best energy is lack of focus. If your normal energy is best focus, why would you go backwards? So how do we deal without missing out a lot? How do we deal without guilt? Let's talk about how to practice being slow first, and then we'll talk about the guilt piece. So, of course, the first thing that you can do is pay attention to what's getting your attention. For me, it was stress. I found myself thinking more about the stress, about all the things that needed to be done, rather than the attention that I needed to be putting on those focuses. So if my attention is divided between the million little things and the stress that it's causing, I need to address the stress. One way for you to address this is to spend time considering where your attention is diverted. Is it on people, thoughts, things, circumstances? What has your focus? And does this align with you feeling your best? For one person, they wrote in and said, my attention has been so focused on all the negativity at work that I swear the minute I walk in there, all I want to do is cry. Well, your attention is in the wrong place. Your attention should be on, why do I feel this way and what can I do to get out of it? That piece of paying attention to where your attention goes is all about being present, which is number 2. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Just be present. Right? Just be where you are. Don't do as much. Do less. If it were that easy, people like myself who have all these tools wouldn't get lost. Right? It's hard. Being present is hard at times. That's just the ugly truth. In our busy lives, we have so much competing for our attention. It almost feels impossible to focus on ourselves. But you have to be able to identify how you can be present and then guard it. Guard it. No, I'm sorry. This is going to get in my way. The questions that I often ask myself is, does this work for me? Does this support me in the way that I need it to? What is getting in the way of me being present? What's keeping me from being able to keep the guardrails on the busyness? What have I put in place? Where's my responsibility in all of this? And guess what? It's all my responsibility, just like it's all yours. What can you do? Can you say no? Can you take something away? Can you begin to build a non-anxious life? The other piece I found myself doing was being on my phone. I needed a distraction. I needed something to take my mind away from what I was thinking about. And yet I wasn't doing productive things. I was just sort of allowing my phone to steal my time and my attention and most certainly my peace of mind. And all of us do it, right? The reason why it works is because social media apps are built to get into the small piece of your brain that goes into autopilot. And what it does is it allows you to let go, bring down fight or flight, get out of anxiety, and sort of become numb. And for a few minutes, it's okay. But if you're spending a dramatic amount of time doing these things, it's a huge cue to slow down. It's necessary. If I need to step away, that means that I need to return my focus. The fourth thing that you can do is focus on the people in front of you. When we rush through our lives, we often push aside the people that we love most, our friends, our family, these people that will just be there. We miss out on the relationships. And for me, that is so important. Whether it is my family, my kids, my parents, whoever it is, my friends. I love being with them. That connection comes from those moments of slowdown, in that focus, in that space of peace. I want to be chosen, and I know the people around me want to be chosen too. And so you have to focus on that. How can I slow down enough to focus on the people in front of me? Number 5. This one's going to sit a little harder for some of you that are doers. And it's one that I promise you I still struggle with. It is a place of non-perfection, but it is to accept your limitations. You don't have to save the world, just like you don't have to carry everything on your shoulders. I can't always say yes. I can't always do, and neither can you. The world is not going to fall apart. Things will fall into place. We've all been there, right? But we have to remember that we have to give ourselves a margin of peace. You are human. I am human. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I need a step back. I am making a choice. I want to be chosen. And so I have to start choosing. This is so important. Accept your limitations. Give a margin where a margin is necessary and be okay with it. Something I realized that I kept writing during my journaling time was, I need more fun. Life had gotten pretty damn serious. And the older we get, the harder it is to make fun a priority. And we even feel guilty for that. Again, we're going to talk about the guilt. But remember, slowing down, making time for fun actually recharges your batteries. Nothing is more fulfilling than laughing. Nothing gives you more joy than connectivity. So whether that's traveling or learning something new, reading a book, swimming, doing yoga, doing whatever it is that actually fulfills you, do the damn thing. Whatever brings you joy, make time for it. Do it. It is important. And it may seem like it's not, but it so is. The next thing that you can do is practice silence. Yes, I'm talking about meditation, but I'm also just talking about being quiet. No radio, no podcast, no music, no noise, just silence for just a moment. You don't have to make it a permanent part of your life, but just be quiet. Being quiet allows the rush to stop. Your mind may want to rush, but if you give yourself just a little bit of silence, peace finds its way into. Practice silence. Of course, I just mentioned journaling. You know that's my jam, and I want it to be yours too, because if you don't give yourself time to reflect, how can you check in? How can you really think about how you feel if you don't give yourself time to think about how you feel, right? When you do that, you give yourself sort of these steps because you notice the distraction. You notice what's filling your mind. You give yourself the space to make change. If you give yourself space to make change. That's the biggest one, right? If I give myself the space, sometimes it feels like I shouldn't. Why? The answer is guilt. Feeling guilty can challenge us and make everything feel like a burden. And when we're trying to slow down, we have to name the guilt. We have to acknowledge the feelings of guilt rather than pushing them away. We sit in it. We take that quiet time and reflect on how we got to where we are, and we use curiosity to explore the emotion. Why do I feel guilty? Well, I have people that are depending on me. I have all of these obligations that I signed up for. I've put too much on my plate. If I slow down, what will happen? The world isn't going to end. Ask for help. Name the guilt. Where did it come from? Why is it there? How is it impacting you? And then you have to set boundaries in guilt. I'm going to ask you a question that I've asked many people who've sat in private session with me. And the question is, do you ever feel guilty for not showing up for yourself? I'm going to be honest with you. I have never, ever once heard anyone say yes. But yet I do. I feel guilty when I don't show up for myself because it is a piece of my prioritizing of the self that I make sure that I'm trying to avoid overcommitting or overdoing. If it doesn't align with my values and my priorities, then I have to set boundaries around it. And so do you. If I don't feel guilty about the way I'm showing up for myself, but I do feel guilty about the way I'm showing up for someone else, I need to definitely realign. I have to practice the boundaries with the self. And then I have to allow myself to feel the guilt of that. Guilt is this experience that says, I should have done this, but I didn't. It's an expectation. And so instead of lying in those feelings, I can say, I recognize it, I witness, and I'm going to set boundaries around those things that get in the way of feeling my best. And then I make amends. We have to take responsibility for our actions that led us to this place. I'm sorry, Danielle, that I allowed you to put all of these things in your path. You should have learned from your past, but let's focus on positive growth now. What can you do to get back into a space that feels the best? I'm going to let go. I'm going to use some of my coping strategies to be able to not feel weighed down. Guilt is an emotion that involves remorse and self-judgment. If we leave those things off of the table, then we have the ability to take responsibility and change the way we're showing up. In our slow down, we allow ourselves to empower ourselves. If we stop feeling guilty, we can relax. If we stop feeling like we are overwhelmed and overactive, we can have a slower experience. I want to give you some of the tools that I've been using. And don't worry, to all the people who were like, hey, I miss your face on social media. I'm coming back. I realigned. I'm good. I just needed a moment, just like you do, right? But the first one is to make a priority list, right? Stay organized, cross things off your to-do list, give yourself the self-assignments, and then allow yourself to earn the breaks. But don't put it so full that you can't actually sit and relax. Balance. It's okay if you never finish that to-do list. And then put into place some of those relaxation things that we talk about all the time here, whether that is breath work, journaling, yoga, exercising, taking a new course that's going to, open the mind. Whatever it is, do it. Reset the brain. It needs it. Okay? So give yourself that brain break and allow yourself to feel your best. I limited social media, which is why you didn't see me as much. I even limited how much I came here for the podcast, whether you've noticed or not. I limited those things so that I could make an effort to focus on what I truly needed. I allowed my brain, my body to have some downtime because your brain needs as many breaks as the physical body needs too. If you're finding yourself scattered, you're finding yourself wasting time, not in alignment with what you need and want, it is the biggest key, the biggest indicator that it is time to slow it down. Bring mindfulness back into your daily life. You can do it when you wake up in the morning. Check in with yourself. How do I feel? What emotions are present? Do I feel any physical aches and pains? Do I feel okay? Get mindful about your breath, focusing on the thoughts that come in and breathe them in and then let them go. Focusing on feeling okay. Focusing on your senses. One thing that I love to do when I'm washing my face is to feel the soapy water on my skin, the smell of the soap, feeling my fingers rubbing against my cheekbones. This is a form of mindfulness. It is a form of slowing down. You can do it when you're eating, focusing on the textures of the flavors. You can do it when you're walking. Pay attention to the connectivity with your foot to the ground. You can do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you smell, 2 things that you touch, 1 thing that you taste. And paying attention because this is a grounding exercise. Allowing yourself to feel, see, touch, move. Making sure that you make habits of your mindfulness is big. Establish those anchor points. It's why we have practices. Have you ever thought of it that way? That these practices that you use, whether it's exercise or meditation or breath work or screaming at the car in front of you in traffic, they're anchor points. They're things that help you bring yourself back into the moment. Establish your anchor points. Know what they are. Be accountable to them. Be accountable to yourself. When you do that, you find the slowdown. Slowing down is not bad. I've had to redefine that in my own brain, and I guarantee you I'm going to have to redefine it again. Trust me. But we all get there. We all get into a mad rush where we let go of that good feeling and we can take ourselves back. Use the mantra, do less. You don't have to plan everything. You don't have to be in charge of everything. You don't have to choose everyone while they don't choose you. You can choose yourself and focus intently on making sure that your anchors are in full bloom, that you feel good. Because when you do that, you get yourself together. When you do that, you allow yourself to fully thrive. There's nothing better. There's just absolutely nothing better. And I hope that you'll give yourself permission to slow down when you need it. Because doing that is an essential step into getting your life together. Thank you so much for listening to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. If you've enjoyed these tips for bettering your life and are seeking daily inspiration and additional tools and tips, you can follow me on social media if you're not already. I Get Your Life Together Girl on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Clapper, YouTube, and now Threads. You can also visit my show notes, my blog, and all of the wonderful courses and downloads that I have available at getyourlifetogethergirl.com. Please feel free to share this episode with a family member or friend and rate the show on whatever platform you listen to, as it does help the show itself. It is my personal thank you to you for being a part of this gorgeous community that we have here. Thank you for the downtime. Thank you for being you. I hope that you have the most beautiful day. Make sure you check out the newest course on Insight Timer and on our new classroom board. You don't have to be a part of Insight Timer to take the courses any longer. Check that out in the show notes. Until next time, be kind to yourself and others.